Sergio Leone's gangster epic Once Upon a Time in America is considered by many to be the director's magnum opus. The director of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, For a Few Dollars More, and Once Upon a Time in the West spent years trying to get the project off the ground, even rejecting the chance to direct The Godfather. The theatrical release of Once Upon a Time in America was infamously butchered for its American release. To think that Leone originally shot 8 to 10 hours worth of footage and then trimmed this down to 6 hours, planning to release 2 3-hour films, a desire that was rejected by the producers, to cutting it down to 3 hours and 49 minutes, the most famous version of the film, to have the movie cut without his permission to a linear narrative film just over 2 hours long, which was a critical disaster, is deeply saddening. In any case though, today the film has cemented a status as something of a classic in the gangster genre, a towering, beautiful and haunting picture about friendship, love, old age and betrayal. Starring Robert De Niro, James Woods, Treat Williams, Burt Young and Joe Pesci, the film follows Noodles, an aged former Prohibition-era gangster who returns to Manhattan 35 years after his gang's prime, to confront the demons and regrets of his past. Once Upon a Time in America, as the title of this video suggests, is a highly violent film and contains some very disturbing scenes. Part of it comes from the very grim and gritty feel of the movie, its nature being one not to shy away from the less glamorous aspects of the ghetto upbringing the characters have and the challenges they face as a result of having to survive the way they did and the characteristics they inhibit as a result. Once Upon a Time in America is beautifully shot, has a dazzling score and is operatic and poetic in its storytelling, but it juxtaposes this with an incredibly grim display of events on screen. It is a film that feels dirty. Some examples include a police officer, an upholder of the law, having intercourse with a teenage prostitute, a woman with a bizarre rape fantasy having said fantasy carried out by a robber and later playing a weird game where she tries to guess who her quote-unquote rapist is from a lineup, a graphic scene where a man is suddenly shot in the eye and the car he was in being bombarded with bullets, a man being tortured and his face dripping with blood, a child being shot as he attempts to flee his attacker, and a defenseless woman also being shot. There's one scene in the film that I found profoundly disturbing, and I'm not even sure if it was the intent, and I haven't really seen anyone talk about it. Of course, when people talk about disturbing scenes in Once Upon a Time in America, the first thing that jumps to most people's minds is the rape of Deborah. Noodles and Deborah are childhood friends who share sweet and ultimately doomed romance. Noodles' loyalty to his friends keeps him from Deborah, and after returning from prison, he attempts to rekindle the love they had, taking her for a meal at a lavish hotel. But to Noodles' dismay, Deborah reveals her intent to leave for California to pursue her acting career. The car ride home is a quiet one. Noodles is shattered and Deborah attempts to lessen the blow with a few kisses. But Noodles becomes aggressive and then does the unspeakable. He rapes her. Shown in graphic detail, against the pleading and crying of Deborah, it goes on for a while and is deeply uncomfortable to watch. It's a testament to the filmmaking that the scene is as disturbing as it is, because even in such scenes when someone is being violated, the more horny audience members might find something to be titillated with, visually. But there is nothing enjoyable about this scene. It portrays the action as it is, ugly, violent, and irreversible. Deborah is the purest thing in this film against the backdrop of Manhattan's seedy underbelly. She stands out as a light of innocence and uncorrupted beauty in the eyes of Noodles, who has lived a life of violence and crime. Even visually, she's always wearing white, but after the rape, when she's on the train, she's dressed in black, as if to say Noodles has erased the purity which he was so attracted to. Anyway, as horrific as it isn't actually the scene I wanted to talk about. The part of the movie I found most shocking and disturbing was their scheme against the celebrity police captain Vincent Aiello, played by Danny Aiello. The cop is on a bit of a power trip with his wife, having given birth to a son after having several daughters in a row, and he is being manipulated by factory owners into allowing his officers to protect the cab workers the owners have allowed into their factory. The gang's plan is to switch around the babies in the hospital ward so that Noodles can later call Aiello and blackmail him to call off the officers and let the workers and management work out the strike. The switching scene itself is fantastic cinema, perhaps a nod to A Clockwork Orange, incidentally one of the more famous and shocking scenes from that film. But with dialogue not being necessary, the gang makes the switch while Cockeye distracts the nurse and even attempts to get a bit of action while he does so. When the film cuts to the police captain, his pompousness is very irritating, but you can't help but share a bit in his giddy joy at being handed his new kid. And then the shock when he takes off the clothes to change the diaper, only not seeing what he wanted to see. His demeanor instantly changes, and it's the wife I feel sorry for the most, confused and frightened, bursting into tears at what should be a joyous time. Noodles phones him and explains what's what, and the cop makes a deal. But Patsy isn't able to find the switch list, so the gang decides to give the cop a random number, and therefore a random baby. And the gang isn't fazed by the fact that the 30 or 40 other babies were also switched, so they decide to just decide the fates of the babies randomly. As Max says, we give some the good life, give it to others up the ass. And everyone coldly laughs over the fates of these children they've mixed up. I mean, let me know in the comments section below if you think I'm overreacting, but damn! I thought this scene was ice cold and one of the most deplorable actions in the entire film. It's just this sheer idea that these sleazy gangsters, for their own personal benefit and their own little operations, will separate mothers and fathers from their children forever, will toy and play with the fates of these innocent children. Captain Ayler will forever be in doubt about whether the boy he is given is actually his son, which, especially given his temperament, will surely cause major problems in the household. And when the kid grows up looking nothing like his parents, he will surely know the truth, know his real son is out there somewhere and he will never see him. What did the poor mother do to deserve a fate like this? What about the sisters? And then there's the rest of the babies. One of these kids may have been born to affluent parents, but he'll be destined to become a gangbanger or a chimney sweeper or the life of a bum or who knows what else, all because of a sick little scheme some scumbags pulled the day they were born. It's just the idea of how these children will never grow up actually knowing their parents and vice versa. I just found it sickening and was truly disturbed at this scene, especially the brazenness and flippant nature of the characters. They simply don't care. They find it funny. None seem to understand the value of family and parents because they all seemingly had poor relationships with their own. It really did leave me with a cold feeling, more so than anything else that happens in the film. It's just the sheer injustice of it, the not knowing, the fate of these babies shaped by these men dismissive of the magnitude of what they're doing. It chilled me. So what do you make of this scene? Do you think it deserves to be called the most disturbing scene in Once Upon a Time in America? What do you think is the film's most disturbing scene? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel and thanks for watching. Check out other videos I've done on disturbing scenes. One from Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, which didn't actually make it into the final film, and another one on my second channel, Cine Uncut, where I talk about what I found to be the most disturbing scene in Martin Scorsese's filmography, one that I think will surprise you.